A very good afternoon, friends, and welcome back. It's a good amount of about GCC in the first half, but let's understand how to set it up. And you don't find a better person and gentleman other than Mr. Rakesh Sinha, founder Quintus Global. All along, he has helped and built himself an excellent GCC which caters the global need. With this word, let's welcome to the dais Mr. Rakesh Sinha. And friends, he has won a People's CEOs of the Year from the People First HR for his work and expertise. And may I request office to give a authority of our gratitude. Friends, don't restrict yourself in asking questions because it is all about knowing the nuances of setting up GCC. Mr. Sinha, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Very bad timing, isn't it? वो इतना बढ़िया गुलाब जामुन खा के आने के बाद अभी तो बिल्कुल ही हिम्मत नहीं हो रही है, ना मुझे हो रही है ना आप लोगों को हो रही है, मुझे पता है. That food was very nice, and I got the luxury of eating that kulcha also, stuffed kulcha. So thanks to some of you, it was very nice. So अभी थोड़ा मुश्किल होगा, लेकिन कोशिश करेंगे, साथ में कोशिश करेंगे समझने की GCC में होता क्या है. दो तीन चीज़ें मैं आप लोगों से बताना चाहता हूँ as I start my conversation, just to share with you. So I am not a, people sometimes say, you will be taking a session, you will be giving a lecture, you will be a faculty, etc., etc. Let me very honestly confess to you that I don't know anything more than what I have experienced myself. And I'm going to share nothing from what you can get from ChatGPT or Google. So पहला डिस्क्लेमर आप लोगों के लिए है कि जो आपको गूगल में मिल सकता है, जो ChatGPT में मिल सकता है, I'm not going to share anything from that. I'm going to only share my experiences. अगर मेरी experience आपके किसी काम में आती है, तो I'll be very happy about it. So I'm just going to share some of my experiences. We are all talking about future-ready GCC, and before I have a lot of slides, and I can talk with many reasons and many more hours on the GCC. Just to give you another anecdote, I don't know how many of you are aware of it. I may have delivered more than 1,000 sessions on GCC. I have interacted with maybe if not more, at least 40,000+ people to talk to them about what they can do in the GCC space. And why I am here when Sanjeev was saying in the morning that I have traveled all the way to even Calcutta just for this session, took the pain to be here in the morning and going back in the evening, is because I am very much passionate about that belief that this country can continue to create those capability centers very much led by leaders like you. Actually, I have a firm belief that what engineers, किसी ने सुबह बोला ना engineers के बारे में बात कर रहे थे मित्रा साहब, what engineers did for manufacturing, I believe CAs and finance professionals can do for the world of GCC. I firmly believe that I have experienced it, and I'll share some anecdotes, experiences from that perspective. So, अगले 20-25 मिनट, don't even think that I'm going to share anything जो बहुत कुछ आपको एस्पिरेशनल होगा, ये कुछ नहीं होगा. आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू शेयर माई एक्सपीरियंसेस. और 3-4 मेरी लर्निंग के मंत्रास हैं जो मैं आपसे शेयर करना चाहूँगा, विच इफ यू फील लाइक यू वांट टू adopt, adapt and appreciate and apply. What is more important is to apply. Feel free to do that. I will also share my experiences from another anecdote to share with you. In the last 20 years, I have been part of working with both global and regional organizations to encourage them to set up their global capability center or a GBS centers in India. My strategies working with these organizations have resulted 150,000 jobs in India. So I'll use some of these learnings and share with you what is the art of possible, and feel free in next few minutes to ask questions, because this is not about how much I know. This is about what can I share with you which could be meaningful for you. So मैं बोला ना, मैं बोलता जा सकता हूँ. GCC एज ए पैशन मेरे हिसाब से इतना 1000 सेशंस करने के बाद. So it's not about what I can share. Please do stop me, ask questions as much as you want to ask. Feel free to do that. But I have got some thoughts where I wanted to share with you guys quickly some summary points. By saying, what is this industry all about? You all be hearing about GCC. आपको GCC करना है. सुबह भी when I came here, I think the council members were all talking about this is a huge opportunity. Adapt करना पड़ेगा, नई चीजें सीखनी पड़ेंगी. But क्या सीखना है? Question ये है कि है क्या सीखना है? What we need to understand and why do we need to understand? That is where I'll share with you some of the learnings and my 3 decades of experience on this. अभी आपके पास तो फिर भी एक अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि लोग बात कर रहे हैं इंडिया में, आपकी फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर जीसीसी बोल रही हैं, आप अपने घर में जाकर बोलते हैं रिलेटिव्स को that I am going to work for a GCC or I am trying to be a GCC, at least they are not going to look at you and stare at you by saying, what nonsense. Think about me 20 years ago when I used to go and tell my in-laws that I am trying to do something in GCC, they used to stare at me. By saying the guy who was passed out from IIM Calcutta, went to US, studied at Carnegie Mellon University, US, became handful of the authorized global practitioner, written books. Now he's trying to do something which we don't even know what this industry is all about, right? Very difficult. So you still have that opportunity of that industry shaping to where it is, and I feel very proud that when I started, ये लोग उसके बारे में बात भी नहीं कर रहे थे. पहली चीज GCC के अंदर में एक 3-letter word hai, and I will actually give you some interesting journey from here. The first mantra for you to keep in the mind is, if you really want to talk about the GCC, the C and C is most important along with the G. The 3-letter word, the first letter is G, what is global? So what does it mean? The first thing is that aapko global thinking chahiye, global appreciation chahiye, global outlook chahiye, global palette chahiye. Sorry, somebody is talking on the phone. Sorry? Absolutely. And you can get global customers only if you have a global palette. I just give you example of it. For instance, 99% of us are not good in terms of creating anything which is suited to the global palette. खाना जो बोलते हैं ना, आप अभी खा के जैसे गुलाब जामुन हम खा करके आए, हम लोगों का जो choice of food है is to our taste buds. That is the palate, right? Interestingly, the global customer, what they are looking to eat, are we really bringing that on the table is most critical thing. How are you positioning yourself? What is the narration which you're having for your services is most critical. Narration बोलते थे accounting में, वो narration में वो travel accounts को भी आप करके side में लिख देते हैं charge to travel account. कि अच्छा ठीक है ऐसे, बहुत लोगों ने ऐसे किया. But आपकी narration जो है, that becomes your story. So narration and narrative becomes very important, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. The second 2 letters are C and C. The second C is what? Capabilities. Right? And I'll give you an interesting perspective to it. The second C, which is everybody is saying capability, actually should become the third C, because capability overnight nahi banti kisi ki. Am I right? If somebody says overnight I'm going to become a capability, even it's a global firm, local firm, doesn't matter, you can't become a capability overnight. It's a journey. That's why I call capability as the third letter of this GCC, which is the GCC, the third letter is the capability. The second letter is collaboration. 9 out of 10 times, and this is the biggest difference which has happened from a world of outsourcing. दो तरह के काम होते थे पहले भी, offshoring पहले भी होती थी. सर ने बोला global customer, पहले भी global customer आते थे इंडिया में, दो तरीके से आते थे, और मैंने बहुत लेकर आए हैं जो एक आउटसोर्सिंग के तरीके से आते थे, BPOs, KPOs, ITO, IT सर्विसेज, और दूसरे अपनी खुद की कैप्टिव सेटअप करते थे. So we always had these two options in front of the customer, which was like a third party outsourcing or a pure play captive. Now the GCCs actually stemmed out from the captive, but it brought the flavor of the outsourcing. This is important. मैं repeat कर रहा हूँ. There are two models available. GCC stemmed out from the captive, not from the outsourcing. Mindset यहाँ रखें. GCC stemmed out of captive with a flavor of outsourcing on top of it, and this is where the biggest mistake many of us do. We think outsourcing can become a GCC. No, not at all. It has to bring the captive mindset, and I'll talk a little bit more about what captive mindset means. No, there are, and I'll talk about it. I'll just give you a definition of GCC now. That's where, if it was so same, ma'am, then why we are talking about GCC? So the captive model used to be called as GIC, Global In-House Center. It was a global in-house center. There was a reason why the word GIC was created for it, as a captive. And over a period, GIC became GCC. This is where no one has really pinned down the definition of saying what GCC means. And I'll share a definition with you in a short while. After that, you will figure out why it is a GCC. And when somebody says captive is equal to GCC, please tell him it is not true. Or if somebody says outsourcing is equal to GCC, please tell him it is not true. And I'll give you a definition in a short couple of minutes. Of course, I mean, I can go anywhere, but one thing I thought I should also talk about is a bit about what is the opportunities for the CAs and advisory firms. I hope you're interested to hear that, right? Now, this is where the graph is, and I know it's very small with the sofas here, you can't even see it, but wanted to give you a flavor of how global captives really started becoming an important norm in the country. And I had an opportunity to work with some of these in my life. American Express actually started from a finance and accounting point of view. It was the first ever offshoring GBS. It used to be called in mid-90s FRC, Finance Resource Center, not even GBS or a GCC. Then GE made it bigger, and so on and so forth. So last, if you see 30 years, many global organizations, they learned, typically just to give you a range, from a Fortune 500, pretty much about 50% of the Fortune 500 companies have set up their GCCs in India. But when you expand that base from 500 to global Fortune 2000, then only about 25% has done that. And that is where the whole opportunity we are talking about. If we're talking about today, exports of GCC from India is about $65 billion. I'm still talking about which is recognized as a GCC. There are many centers who are not even recognized as a GCC because they are not positioning themselves as a GCC. So recognized sector is about $65 billion of exports in revenue. And the expectation is over the next 5 years, it reaches $110 billion, which is 2x. Now in this $65 billion of increase in the next 5 years, मैं और आप क्या करेंगे उसमें is the question. Will we have a role to play there, or we will not have a role to play there in the $65 billion increase? Today it is about 4% roughly the contribution to the GDP of India. Why everybody is talking about GCC? Because the next 5 years is going to be a significant contributor to the GDP's growth. So you and I will play a role in this space or not is the question. And every 5-7 years, there was a shift in terms of what is happening in that space and so on and so forth. Let me ask a quick question to all of you. What is your sense? Why do organizations set up Global Capability Center? Then only you will appreciate what you need to do differently if you want to become a partner for GCCs. Am I right? Is the question relevant? Is question relevant? You want to become a partner, GCC partner for the global customer. Am I right? That's what you want, right? How many of you want that answer? Okay. So you want to become a global partner. So now, let's ask the question differently. What is your understanding why global corporations are setting up their own GCCs? To the madam's point, that many of them are doing their own captive. Right? They were still doing captive. For the last 30 years they were doing captive. Now, what is the shift which is happening? And I'll talk about that, but what is your sense? Why they are setting up the GCCs? There are 6 options written here. Can you see it? I think if you, I don't know you can see everything here, but maybe you can see some of those written there. I will read out the option and you can show your hands to say you go by that option. The option 1 is consolidate and offshore transactional work. How many of you believe that? Consolidate and offshore transactional work. How many of you believe that? Show of your hands. Okay, few. Cost optimization. Many hands. Efficiencies and enhanced customer experience. Okay, few hands. Access to talent pipeline and specialized skills. More hands. Innovation continuum and strategic decision making. Few hands. Market expansion and competitive edge. No, of course all of it, but I think if you have to pick one, in your opinion, one option, what is the primary option? And let me just share with you, out of the 6 options, and this is something which I have been asking to, as I said, thousands of leaders across the country. And of course, we have done our own research with the global company headquarters, with the CFO, CIO, etc. The learning here is, which we always say, it's again a point of a narrative. What is the narrative? Like we were having a narrative 20 years ago by saying, India is a low-cost location. The kind of work which you don't want to do, which is non-value add work, low-end work, transactional work, please give it to India. We will do it for a low cost, cheaper, and sometime even better. That was our narrative. Do you agree to me? Narrative was, I know Gulab Jamun effect is there, but still, I'm also trying hard, please believe me. So the first thing was narrative. Narrative tha, we are a low-cost country. We have billions of people available. The non-value add work, we used to say NVAs, non-value added work, transactional work, mundane work, जो आप नहीं करना चाहते US में, UK में, वो मुझे दे दीजिए इंडिया में करने के लिए, मैं कर देता हूँ low cost में. That was our narrative for good 20 years. And if your narrative was that, by design, you will get that kind of a work. So you became what? Low cost center. You became what? A center where they were giving some bottom of the pyramid work. Try to visualize with me a pyramid, a triangular pyramid. Try to visualize with me. I don't have a slide, but I want you to visualize it. There are 4 layers of work in this pyramid. 4 layers in a pyramid. Bottom of the pyramid is transactional work or sometime operational work. The second layer is governance layer, decision enablement layer. Third layer is product management layer, and the top layer was innovation, business model, market edge, market reach. There are 4 layers, right? What we were seeking was the bottom of the pyramid. Now in the last 5-6 years, what happened? All of a sudden the organization said, okay, oh, we have done so much of bottom of the pyramid, let me try to get the next level. Now the global headquarters said, oh, you are looking for more meteor work, decision enablement work, but can you get that? Do you have that capability? And this is where the question shifted to become, can we become a capability center and not remain a capacity center or operation center? So cost, which was a very critical item as an arbitrage, and please try to understand this to narrative, I'm just giving you one. पहला तो क्या है, captive mindset से आपका GCC शुरू हो रहा है. दूसरा, capability is a step after the collaboration. The third is cost. People say cost अब issue नहीं है, cost के बारे में कोई बात नहीं करना चाहता. Cost is not important. Let me tell you, cost is very important. I'll be the first one standing here on a dais saying cost is most critical one. Right? If you want to do it. The only difference here is, earlier the cost was about cost arbitrage, which is labor arbitrage. वहाँ पे आपको $100,000 में कोई मिलता है, यहाँ पे आपको $20,000 में वही काम करके हम दे देंगे. That was the arbitrage benefits, which is the year one benefit. CFOs are smart. They are saying year one तो मैंने benefit ले लिया, उसके बाद तो मेरा baseline ही वही हो गया. Right? This is where the difference which has happened. And if you understand this element of narrative, I can tell you, you will be a big differentiator in your business area. ये बहुत important narrative है जो headquarters सुना जाती है. Don't say I don't play in the cost. Cost arbitrage was always there. It is given. पहले वो 100 का $20,000 था, 100 का 30,000 हो गया, 100 का 40 हो गया, doesn't matter. But arbitrage is given. उसको भी मालूम है, आपको भी मालूम है. You're not telling something which is new to the world now. 20 years ago it was new. But if you say I am going to give you a continuous cost optimization, year over year. So the difference is cost arbitrage to cost optimization, which is a continuum. So year one, if I'll do it for 100, year two, I will do it for 95, year three, I'll do it for 90, year four, I'll do it for 85, year five, I'll do it for 80. That is what is expected. And now hear me out the next line. Because moment you say I can do cost optimization means what will you do? You will do improvements, you will do innovation, you will do transformation. Without that you can't do it, right? So the overall narrative which is important to be built is by saying we are a capability arm for you, but build on the foundation of collaboration, and I'll talk about what collaboration means, how will you build your brand, etc. But most critical piece here is that narrative. Don't let go of this cost element, but don't harp on the arbitrage, but harp on the cost optimization, which is a continuous optimization. Does it make sense? So far, is it making sense? Is it making sense? I want to give you a sense of it. While I can talk multiple slides, I don't want to get into all this. I think this is something which is for a mature GCCs by saying why are you looking for it, the talent, innovation, etc., the government support, and so on and so forth. But I want to give you very practical examples here. This is what I was talking about from a transaction processing. How will you move up the value chain? When somebody says, I want to become a capability center, you're not talking about that I will do only transactions. But you're also saying, I will do transactions. That is where, again, the narrative is going wrong. See, again, I'll give you something what I call as a, those shabd hum log bolte the na, optimistic or pessimistic. Are you aware of this, right, all of you? Optimistic and pessimistic. Optimistic will say everything is green. Everybody will say, oh, glass is half full is optimism, right? And pessimist will say glass is half empty. यही पढ़ते हैं ना हम लोग स्कूल में. मेरी बेटी भी यही पढ़ती है. Half full means you're optimistic. If you say half empty, you are pessimist. Today's world is not about, neither about optimist or a pessimist. Today's world is about realistic optimism. The world is about realistic optimism. So आपको reality बात करनी पड़ेगी, उसके साथ optimism है. So glass is half empty
but also half full. That is the reality. Neither of the statement is right. Half empty भी wrong है, half full भी wrong है. But reality is half empty but half full. That is a realistic optimism.
So अगर आप बोलेंगे मैं सिर्फ value added services करूंगा, I'll do everything in AI only and everything, all the stuff, they will say, come on, you don't even know what transaction works. Are you going to lose your own basics? So that is why it's a foundation. So transaction becomes the foundation. The second layer where many of you are not playing today, as I see, is a functional excellence. And then you move towards the value-added services. Just to give you example, when somebody says, I want to do a process like accounts payables, and that too again when I say accounts payables, I can assure you 99.9% people when they say accounts payable, they're still talking about invoice posting. Am I right? Vendor management. That is what, that 99% people I've seen, they're just doing a three-way match and posting in the books. The expectation is how you really move up the value chain to become spend controllers. So just to give example, how you can really move the value chain. Reconciliation as a process is so fundamental, foundational, basic in the nature. Reconciliation, bank reconciliation, cash in transit reconciliation, whatever kinds of reconciliation. That's the first thing we all learn. वो टिक-टिक के जगह reconciliation tools आ गए, AIs आ गए, whatever it is. But Rex was always a very operational process. But where you can move your narrative while setting up a future-ready GCC is by saying, I do balance sheet integrity. I do financial integrity by leveraging reconciliation. Does it make sense? Is it making sense? Good afternoon once again, guys. So reconciliation has to become, that's where a narrative is. If you really want to partner with a global firm, if you say, I just do reconciliation, it is not going to work. But if you say, I do financial integrity, balance sheet integrity on the foundation of reconciliations, it is going to work. So how you're going to position is very, very critical in the space of a GCC. Just to give you example and the definition of the GCC, this is very important. How we believe the GCC can be defined now. Many of you were keen to know how should I define the GCC. If I have to be in a GCC business, what it means, right? So first thing first, principle or mantra I shared with you is the GCC, there were two kinds of model always there. What? Captive and third party. Now GCC is stemming out of captive. Right. So the whole GCC model is all about by saying when I say I become a strategic and execution arm both. If I'm just a transactional processing unit, you are an outsourcing unit. You are not a GCC. That's the first point. Second is the global organizations, global customers are looking for right location, and is that location integrated with the corporate headquarters? I think again the examples were shared about Ahmedabad, etc. I was talking with somebody and I was sharing, I think I was sitting with sir while I was eating lunch, and I was sharing with him, we set up the first of the GCC in Ahmedabad in 2007. Much before, and of course we were part of even Adani journey, etc., very closely working with Gautam Bhai. But we have seen that first GCC way back in 2007 in Ahmedabad. Then the environment really embraced it. Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Chennai, they all have outgrown. Where the challenge with Calcutta, and I have very strong affinity with this place because I lived here and I studied here at Joka. So I understand the culture. And I was sharing that the culture here actually can command more and more work coming to Calcutta. Because the infrastructure is great, actually improving a lot. The talent here is stable, very committed, not keen to do too much of job swappings. So you have a great opportunity to showcase. Where the challenge here today is that narrative. that we are in this case. For example, my team does a lot of those analyst relation work to put on a comparative chart. So let's say global company saying I'm looking for which location to set up. So we will put, let's say, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Pune, Ahmedabad, Delhi, Mumbai. But I don't recall in the last 4 or 5 years, many of those reports released by us which says Calcutta. Sorry if I'm Kolkata. Please bear with me for Mike because I still have Calcutta in me when I was living here 20 years ago. So somehow in those reports I don't see it. And I think we actually added Kolkata as a part of that option. But then many times the customer has turned back to us by saying, will you put your skin in the game and money to set up in Kolkata? And sometimes we were not very sure. I think there was a discussion in the morning about the GCC policies, state policies. The first GCC policy we worked with and we supported was for the government of Karnataka. I still remember Priyank Kharge, the IT minister in Karnataka government, not this time, the previous term, he came to one of the forums and I shared with him what this whole concept of GBS, GCC is all about, what's happening. He said, okay, this is great. What is state governments doing? I said, the state governments are not providing any benefits. Then Karnataka became first, then Andhra, of course Telangana did a fantastic job, then Andhra has gone further to it, then Tamil Nadu has come out with GCC policy, Kerala has got a GCC policy, Uttar Pradesh has got a GCC policy, government of Rajasthan has got a GCC policy. We have worked with some of the state governments. With Rajasthan, actually, I am doing an event in Jaipur to promote Jaipur. We are doing events in Bhubaneswar because the Chief Minister wants us to do some events in Bhubaneswar. We have been requested to do events in Coimbatore, Indore. So whenever I was told, so Calcutta, Sogata is sitting here, Vivek, who was a speaker earlier, we did first of the GCC events in Kolkata about a year and a half ago. We brought the leaders to talk about GCCs here. And then I was very happy when ICAI with EIRC did something. I was here for the EIRC also here as a speaker. And then now talking about it. So now you can connect. If you want to make your city or a state as a capital or a growing capital from the GCC, it calls for a lot of conversations and news about it. Stories from here. Stories from even Indian multinationals like Tata Steel is having a GCC. Haldia is having a shared services. So a lot of companies, Indorama is having a shared services here. I think we were suggesting few. Everedy is having a shared services here and so on and so forth. So very important is the location it is integrated. The other dimension for the definition for the GCC for you is it should be multi-service. Ideally multi-function, but if you can't say multi-function, you should say it is multi-services. If you're just going to say I just do only one services, that is still not GCC. Still it's a very specialized skills of outsourcing. And I'm giving you a definition because that's why you would like to, differentiate with these two. It's not a specialized skills of doing only risk management. It is very clearly a capability which actually brings a bouquet of strategic offerings. Most critical dimension of a GCC is it is built on the foundation of external expertise and collaboration. That's why if you hear, and I'll give you two names. You heard of Infosys, Accenture, Cognizant, Capgemini, TCS. What are they? They are IT companies. Outsourcing companies? Let's simply put it, they are IT outsourcing companies. They are outsourcing companies. HSBC, American Express, Novartis, Sandoz, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Jaguar Land Rover. They are corporates. They're not outsourcing companies, right? They have their own captive GCCs here, and there's an outsourcing companies. There were a lot of consulting organizations who were helping the global companies to set up their captive or helping them to even outsource. What is the reason all of a sudden this outsourcing companies, if you read about it, everybody is having an internal vertical on GCC. HCL will have a GCC leader. Infosys is having Deval Shah as a GCC leader. They spent $50 million just to stack up that vertical within that company. $50 million. एक वर्टिकल खड़ा करने के लिए अपने कंपनी के अंदर में, क्योंकि ट्रेडिशनल आउटसोर्सिंग का नेगेटिव ग्रोथ है, डिक्लाइन हो रहा है, और जीसीसी का राइज हो रहा है. ग्लोबल हेडक्वार्टर्स को जीसीसी चाहिए, कैप्टिव का टेक्सचर चाहिए, फैब्रिक जो बोलते हैं ना, फैब्रिक, टेक्सचर इज अ फैब्रिक, वो लुक एंड फील कैप्टिव का होना चाहिए. इसलिए मैंने क्या कहा था, जीसीसी स्टेमिंग आउट ऑफ captive. Thank you for being awake. I'm also feeling happy. So GCC is stemming out of the captive. तो fabric क्या होना चाहिए? Captive. Mindset क्या होना चाहिए? Captive. Texture structuring का क्या होना चाहिए? Captive. Taxation structuring, legal entity, setup, exclusivity, environment, everything has to be a captive model. But the entire capabilities to bring to that captive can be through a collaboration. So this is where companies like Infosys saying, I will do it for you. Which means I'll set up, and I think I can get into more of technicalities here, but again the time, I don't think I have time to get into that. There are technicalities about transfer pricing, you understand. So who is setting up that entity? Is it a related party, etc., etc. So all outsourcing guys are talking about, I can do it for you, exclusive center, exclusive infrastructure. I will hire the people, deploy it for you. Deploy it for you in your ring-fenced area. So this is branded as your infrastructure, your office, your environment, everything is yours. But you don't need to worry about the talent. You don't need to worry about technology. You don't need to worry about site. You don't need to worry about glass facades. You don't need to worry about local government compliances. You don't need to worry about how to take that single window clearance. You don't need to worry about getting the benefits what state government is giving it to you. All that will do it for you. And at any point of time, you want this capability to be run by your management and not by management, I'm happy to give it to you. That was not the outsourcing model. Neither a captive model. So neither it's an outsourcing nor captive. But the fabric is captive. Capability is aggregated capability. Like, अगर आप ये narrative को समझ लेंगे, आपकी narrative, while you're going to talk to your global customer, as Sir said, is going to be very different. And I can talk on AI share and everything, which you can find from anywhere. You just put a Google, will say agentic AI, generative AI, दोनों में difference क्या है, क्या कर रहे हैं, नहीं कर रहे हैं, वो आप जितना बोल, you want, I can talk for hours. But I want to give you some terminologies which again you can use it for your environment. Are you an operation center? Are you a process center? Are you a value center, strategic center? What are you trying to be? This is most critical aspect of your strategy and narrative. I'm again going back to this, using this word narrative. आपका narrative क्या है? आपका narrative ये है कि मैं arbitrage दे दूँगा. आपका narrative ये है कि मैं आपकी processing कर दूँगा. आपका narrative ये है कि मैं एक technology लगा दूँगा. या आपका narrative ये है कि I can drive the value. So narrative becomes very important, and along with that, one C, which I talked about, is the GCC. I gave you a definition of GCC now, right? You know that definition of GCC, how it is different from outsourcing and captive and so on and so forth. आपको definition पता है? आपको outsourcing और captive और GCC का clarity हो गया, right? One major thing which I want to give it to you is that GCC में first is global, second C is what? Second? Collaboration. Remember that in the mind. This third letter C is what? Capability. Don't go by the definition of global capability center. वो तो पता है, सबको लिखा हुआ है. I'm giving you different narrative altogether. Say I'm a global in the nature. I have a foundation of collaboration, and I'm building a capability for what? For two more C's. I'll bring a commitment to create your competitive edge. If you bring that narrative in your pitches, you will be able to create those GCCs what you want to do. Thank you. I thought so. Huh? Acha. No, I was given a chit to say 2 minutes, so I'll just have 5 minutes. I'll take 5 minutes. I'll just give you a very interesting example of आपके brand building के point of view से. आप लोग सब लोग brand. I know I don't want to mix up between the restriction from a compliance point of view to create a brand, etc. But I want to give you interesting term brand. Brand is a combination of 3 things. If you want to become a GCC brand, remember 3 terms very clearly. Your intentions, you will say, my intention is to become a GCC. Second term is behavior. Are you behaving like the one? And the third one is perception. And we all know perception is a reality. Are you perceived as a low-cost capacity unit? Are you perceived as a low-cost processing center? Are you perceived as a low-cost transactional processing, a team? Or are you perceived as a capability? So if you really want to build your brand, first thing first, start changing your perception. And everybody in the morning is talking about that present yourself. Go to the conferences. The term which was used in the morning about what is the value, and Sanjeev Bhai was talking about networking, and I think a lot of credit to him for doing whatever he has created in the last year and a half. Networking, I believe, is all about net worth. So my network is my net worth. And as I mentioned to you, in my 1,000 sessions I have delivered on the GCC with my passion, not just to network, but my passion. One thing I have learned every time is your brand is as you're perceived. I give you example. When I was an American Express, I used to have a chip on my shoulder. आपको बताने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती थी कि आप राकेश से ना हैं, आपको बोलना होता था कि अमेरिकन एक्सप्रेस से आए. ठीक है. जो आप बोलते हैं क्विंटस ग्लोबल से आए हैं तो आधे घंटे समझाने में लग जाता है आप हैं कौन. सेम इंसान, डिफरेंट 2 brands. Right? I give you an interesting example. I was advising a $30 billion group, top 10 scripts of the London Stock Exchange in UK headquarters, because I was very closely working with the entire CXO group and advising them on a £100 million deal. Mind you, it's not dollars, £100 million deal. Abhi alag baat hai, dollar bhi wahi pahunch raha hai. But £100 million deal. And can you believe these global guys, they actually, and finally the deal was going to a company like Infosys, $19 billion company, brand की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं आपकी. तो हमको कभी-कभी लगता है कि हम बहुत छोटे brand हैं, हम कैसे compete करेंगे. So please listen to this story, this is important for you. I was no brand in front of Infosys, I was such a small fry, but the CXOs believed into me to give me £100 million deal to design. और deal किसके पास जा रही है? Infosys के पास. उसके लीगल काउंसिल ने, जनरल काउंसिल ने मुझे बुलाया, बोला चीफ यू आर आवर एडवाइजर्स, यू आर हेल्पिंग अस, एवरीथिंग इज फाइन, बट यू आर सजेस्टिंग इन्फोसिस, इट्स एन इंडिया कंपनी. द वे इज एन इंडिया कंपनी, आई फेल्ट लाइक ही इज थिंकिंग अबाउट समबडी ऑफ कोई छोटू कोई कंपनी, ऐसे मॉम एंड पॉप शॉप है. आई हैड टू एक्सप्लेन टू हिम इन्फोसिस, $19 billion, एटसेट्रा, बट इंडिया कंपनी है. And see, I'm sitting, which I have nothing in front of those guys, but it's all about, so it's not about size matters. What matters is the perception. If you're able to create your perception as a brand, it will be very different altogether. And this is where I want to give you last mantra, but very important mantra I like to give you. This is a framework by Kenichi Ohame, is a Japanese management guru. He talked about कि brand के लिए, growth के लिए 3 C's ज़रूरी होता है. मैंने उनके फ्रेमवर्क में थोड़ा सा ट्विकिंग करके उसको 4 C's बना दिया, और आप लोग अगर उसको चाहें तो अपने पास रखना चाहें तो रख सकते हैं. The 3 C's Kenichi talked about was company, customer and competition. Company means मैं क्या करता हूँ, मेरा कस्टमर कौन है जिसको मुझे बेचना है, से अपने का ग्लोबल कस्टमर, और मेरा कंपटीशन क्या कर रहा है. Is it clear? 3 C's. I've changed slightly this into a 4C. This is for the GCCs. How you can build your GCC identity by using this 4C framework. So the 3 C's remain the same thing. The first C is that company. So if you want to become a GCC partner, for global firms, the first thing is company. The point is, what is your narrative about your company? Are you saying I'm a low-cost transaction processing company? Or you are going to say, no, this is what I try to do. For example, there's a meaning in the name, as we call it, right? While Shakespeare says, what's in the name? I say, meaning is in the name. When we were setting up a GCC for Ranbaxy, I mean, I don't know how many of you remember this company called Ranbaxy. 2005, I was setting up their shared services way back in 2005. Ram Sundar was a CFO. We created this entire team as called GRACE, Global Ranbaxy Accounting Center of Excellence, because GRACE became a positioning. Moment used to say, because question तब लोग क्या पूछते थे कि ये reward posting है कि punishment posting है? जो मेरा career खराब तो नहीं कर रहा वहाँ shared services GCC में जा करके. That's a difference which has happened over a point. So brand positioning is very, very critical. Second, customer point of view say, understand the segment which you want to target. I like the conversation in the morning that you should not do carpet bombing. कि जिसको मन में आया उसी को बोल दिया हम कर देंगे. Can you specialize not from the processing point of view, but from the sector point of view? By saying, I would like to target pharma sector. I want to target banking financial sector. Opportunistic तो रहेंगे, जो opportunity आ जाएगी, but can you target a sector? And within the sector, can you target a scale? You can say 0 to $100 million companies, or you can say 10 to $20 billion company. Choice is yours. But I can tell you a big underserved market in the US per se is less than $300 million. You'll be surprised to hear what I'm talking about. $30 million to $300 million companies, and you will find many of them are also listed company, by the way. They are having a huge struggle in terms of managing the entire capability of their enterprise functions. Anything more than 500 million, you will start finding them, slightly having the ability to hire some larger brands and so on and so forth. But this is the sweet spot, if I have to say. Competition, be careful. Whom are you competing with? Are you competing with an ITO company, BPO company, consulting firms? And the most important mantra for you is collaboration. I would recommend as much as possible. I have seen it in some of the situations. For example, we promote all India software products. So when I go to US, I don't talk about only US product, I talk about the India products. I've already got about 4,500 India products listed with me as a platform. Feel free to come forward, collaborate among each other. किसी के पास risk की capability है, किसी के पास किसी और चीज़ की capability. How can you work together and go as a platform to offer to them will be important. Rather saying I'm a small fry, become a collaborative partners is going to be most critical thing. So please don't reinvent. आपके पास टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं है, आप बोलिए मैं यहाँ से टेक्नोलॉजी पार्टनरशिप करके लेते आता हूँ, और आज की डेट में आपको कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं करनी पड़ती उस टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए. इट बिकम्स वेरी इजीली अवेलेबल इफ यू जस्ट कोलैबोरेट विद देम. With this, you are already aware, already 100,000 people working in the GCC space. Last point मैं आपको close करते हुए बोलते हुए जाता हूँ, mindset shift. किसी ने यहाँ पे बोला था, सुबह में बात हो रही थी कि skill set, mindset, एक बीच में एक और set है. मैंने आपसे कहा था मैं मंत्रा ही बता के जाऊँगा, उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं. मैंने कोई गूगल से नहीं बताया, अपनी एक्सपीरियंस शेयर किया आपके साथ. 3 सेट्स होते हैं, हम 2 सेट्स की बहुत बात करते हैं. स्किल सेट, माइंड सेट. दूसरा होता है कैपेबिलिटी सेट. स्किल सेट क्या हुआ? जस्ट लेट मी गिव एग्जांपल. स्किल सेट इज एक्सेल. मुझे एक्सेल में अच्छा काम करने आता है, मुझे वीबी में अच्छा काम करने आता है, मुझे पावर पॉइंट में अच्छा, दैट इज स्किल. माइंड सेट क्या है? आई कैन थिंक बिग, आई कैन थिंक स्ट्रेटेजिक, आई कैन थिंक फ्यूचर. Is a mindset. I can think captive, I can think growth, I have entrepreneurial mindset. Is all mindset. Capability set is in between. This is where many of us actually struggle with. How I use my skill to deliver it to my customer. For example, project management is a capability, not a skill set. Transition management is a capability, not a skill set. Change management is a capability, not a skill set. So ये अगर डिफरेंस आप समझेंगे GCC स्पेस में कि स्किल तो चाहिए और स्किल गिवन है, जैसे संजीव हमेशा बोलते रहते हैं कि स्किल तो आप लोगों को सालों से इतना ज़्यादा पता है, यू नो द बेस्ट इन टर्म्स ऑफ स्किल, दैट इज नॉट एनीबडी इज गोइंग टू क्वेश्चन, दे आर क्वेश्चनिंग योर केपेबिलिटी which is slightly more than the skill. So do you know how to do the project management better? Do you know how to do the change management better? I used to say a very interesting comment by saying operation successful, patient died. Project management well done, but the change management not done. So अगर capability set पे focus नहीं करेंगे आप GCC brand नहीं बन पाएंगे. और of course mindset shift बहुत ज़रूरी है. Become an entrepreneurial mind. I know I've taken a little longer than what I thought, but I'll just close it now. एक फ्रेमवर्क देके जाओ आपको लास्ट में, मुझे याद आ गया माइंडसेट से. 10 सेकंड और सॉरी, बिकॉज आई एम वेरी एक्साइटेड टू टॉक टू यू बिकॉज यू वर ऑल कीन टू लर्न फ्रॉम इट. आपको मैं एक फ्रेमवर्क देके जा रहा हूँ. BAU कितने लोग जानते हैं यहाँ पे? BAU, व्हाट इज द फुल ऑफ BAU? बिजनेस एज यूजुअल. तो आप जो कर रहे हैं BAU बिजनेस एज यूजुअल है. BAU आई बिलीव अगर आपको GCC बनना है तो आप बिजनेस एज यूजुअल से नहीं बन सकते. पहला चीज आपको चेंज करना चाहिए. द फर्स्ट थिंग यू नीड टू चेंज योरसेल्फ इज बिकम अ DAU. दिस इज समथिंग माय फ्रेमवर्क, you will not find anywhere else. I have to get it patented as well. DAU means disruption as usual. In the morning we discussed about VUCA and BANI. In fact, I wanted to add to Mitra sir is that VUCA, BANI is old. People are talking about RUPT, RUPT. RUPT, search about it. The world is so radical, unpredicted, paradoxical and tangled. ऐसे वैसे पूरा मिक्सअप है. तो that world has shifted. So इतना कुछ बदल रहा है, उसमें disruption as usual नहीं होंगे तो आप नहीं चलेगा. और उसके लिए आपको बीच में एक बहुत ज़रूरी चीज़ है CAU, which is chaos as usual. आपको chaos spot करना चाहिए. आप अगर एक प्लम्बर हैं और आप एक सोसाइटी में जाते हैं जहाँ पे कोई लीकेज नहीं है, तो क्या होगा आपके साथ? कोई काम नहीं मिलेगा. तो अगर आप घबरा जाते हैं chaos को देख करके, तो आपको काम नहीं मिलेगा. You need to spot chaos. Don't spot flat lines. Spot chaos. So business as usual, spot chaos as usual, become disruptor by disruption as usual, and you will get EAU, which is excellence as usual, and entrepreneurship as usual. Lovely guys, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sinha. It's all blame goes to the gulab jamun that we had on the lunch, not yours, not ours. Thank you so much for bringing in what, why, and how about GCC when you step forward to built-in GCC. Friends, don't go. We are about to start and initiate a session of, when you talk about GCC ecosystem, we also need to expect what the government is doing for this ecosystem. And here in the session, we'll be discussing about what is there with the just gone by Union Budget 2026. We are having two experts on this. One is from the policy side of it, and another is from the taxation side of it. So we'll be just quickly wrapping up the stage, and we'll about to start the session. Thank you so much. So may I request Mr. Ashutosh Sharma, who is Chief General Manager, IFCA, Gift City, who talks about policy with 20 years of experience from Indian School of Business, always been with strategy, policy, and foresight with the upcoming opportunities of India. And of course, GCC takes a center stage of it. And with this, I also take the opportunity of inviting CA Manish Agarwal, co-founder, True Ledger Consulting, a rank holder himself, talks about international taxation, please, and interplays with finance, taxation, and the ecosystem. May I request our Central Council member, Sri Sanjeev Singh Sangiji, to the stage in welcoming both the gentlemen. Morning we are talking about adaptability, and I just adapted myself as the moderator to this session, which I have not envisaged 15 minutes back. So thank you so much, gentlemen. And when you talk about union budget and its nuances with respect to GCC, there are a lot of hope. And we'll try to know whether that hope and aspiration got fulfilled through union budget. One kind of direction it has given, or the thought process it has seeded in the union budget. To start with, I am also mindful of Mr. Sharma's timing, because he has a flight to catch at 5. So we have promised from our side that we'll be releasing him sharp at 3:30. So 3:45, okay. So how you read this current budget 2026 with respect to what IFCA is thinking about, Mr. Sharma?
Thank you, Surajji. And sorry for the inconvenience getting you, putting you on the spot. But the previous session was probably so interesting. So it stole a lot of thunder, but good to get good, interesting insight from the practitioner on this. See, I think just to give you a context, when they say IFSCA, IFSCA is a regulator. And it's a regulator the way you think of RBI, SEBI. It's a unified regulator. But it's a regulator for GIFT IFSC, which is India's global financial center. So when we hear about the budget, then before budget, I think the way we see this budget, we always go to government each year with some of the expectations. And we usually have 50, 60 ask on the budgets, and we see that 4 or 5 get fulfilled. This year we followed a different strategy, and we asked maybe around 6 proposals we sent to the government, and 2 of those proposals got accepted. But if you see the impact of those budgets, you will realize the impact is significant, because first benefit that you got in GIFT IFSC is that tax holiday in GIFT IFSC has been extended to 20 years instead of 10 years. What is the impact of this? The impact of this is that now when investors were coming into the jurisdiction, they wanted a long-term view. And now when you get 20 out of 25 year of tax holiday, it's a significant impact. It gives them predictable regime. Second benefit they have got in this budget is typically when you compare any financial center, always whenever you're getting the investor into India, they used to say we are coming from Mauritius, Singapore, Hong Kong, which are 15%, 10% tax regimes. What is GIFT FSC going to offer us post-tax holiday? This first time in India that you're getting a very clear guideline from the government, and it shows the intent. It's a very deep intent, where we are saying the after tax holiday, your tax rate will be 15%. And what does 15% mean? That if being an accountant, I understand you must be following the BEPS pillar and what's happening on that globally. Globally, the countries are striving to achieve at the minimum tax guideline, which is 15%. And that's why we have anchored on 15%. Now, if you think of a financial center, and a financial center, you think that globally, if any entity has to go, they'll go think of Singapore or Hong Kong. The tax rate in GIFT FSC right now, after tax holiday, is 2% less than Singapore or Hong Kong. But right now, there is a 20 out of 25 year tax holiday. So it is becoming very competitive. But if you twist, when you have to, and as the previous speaker talked about the perception, and when you twist, when you present to your investors, and when you tell them that think of a place where you are earning your revenue in dollars, and you have a tax holiday, and your cost is rupee. There is no such structure in the world. This is the most competitive structure in GIFT FSC that offers. So this is a very, very long-term vision that government has given, and why this is given is because the India is right now looking at capital allocation. The kind of growth we are looking at 7 to 8%, and people are saying we want 10, 12% growth. The kind of capital that is required for this, that capital required frictionless pipelines. And that's what we are putting in GIFT IFSC. We'll talk about GCC briefly, because we are trying to bring that also into the jurisdiction there. But I'll take a pause here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Astuti. Now, when you talk about GCCs, Sanjeev ji also talked about the top line. And when you interplay between the top line and the bottom line, one element comes very critical, which is the tax part. And this question goes to for you, Manish, that with respect to international taxation, where GCC has a center stage, what and what degree you will evaluate this budget, in what direction this budget has gone with respect to international taxation?
Yeah. So thank you for asking this. And I think this budget has given us a lot of futuristic and I would say a right policy level directions, given that we have a vision of 2047 to become a developing nation. And all those policies, I think, I'll go into my taxation specific aspect as Madam Speaker always goes to part B later before his speech and showing us the vision of the budget. But there are a lot of very fine aspects which GCC as a country should see and evaluate that there is on an overall basis a high level policy level improvement and thinking is going on. This goes, I mean, in terms of let's say specifically that India's vision towards new areas like biopharma, we go towards EV, we go towards nuclear power and data centers and whatnot. I mean, the things are moving into the direction that countries already, I mean, AI mission, semiconductor 2.0. So all is showing that India is now taking the steps to take into the next level of development, which is moving from a developing to a developed economy. And some of the high level steps on the budget from an international tax point of is obviously the headline which most of us would have read, and in the coming days rules would have also come in on to the safe harbor side. So earlier, I mean, transfer pricing dispute remains one of the key pain point in terms of you determine a rate of let's say 12.5% or something in the range of 15. During the assessment proceedings, transfer pricing officer raise it to 19, 24, and then you go to DRP, pay demand, and then you go to ITAT and all that. And overall, in terms of you see an overall dispute resolution timeline, it's somewhere around 8 to 9 years if at a high court level, and if Supreme Court is 15 years. Efforts are being made to reduce those timelines. But typically, it's all in all a waste of time, taxpayers' money, increased litigation, courts are clogged up. So, I mean, the government and safe harbors were already there. I mean, safe harbors were introduced way back in 2012 and 13. But somehow they were not yet effective and there were no takers for safe harbor because of the two critical reasons. One is the threshold was very low. I mean, only 200 crores. But GCCs, they bare minimum start at if a MNC or a Fortune company, as Rakesh ji was saying that Fortune 500, at least 50% of them office. So 200 is just a bare minimum starting point. So any year it could reach. So 200 was a very low threshold, so nobody was taking for them. And the other area was the markups were too high, and also the industry was classified in different manner. You have IT, ITS, KPO, R&D, software development, and coupled with some of the circulars over there, what qualifies R&D, what does not qualify as R&D, creating a lot of confusion. So now they have tried to come up with all these. I mean, I'm not saying that fully they have created a, but they have kind of opened a red carpet for safe harbor in terms of merging all these different verticals of GCC in terms of IT, ITS, KPO, contract R&D, software development into one single vertical. And they have also come up with a rate which is more appealing, which is 15.5%, which is more acceptable. And I think presently most of the GCCs in software, sales, marketing, or other different verticals, they tend to be somewhere in the range of 12 to 15%. So this is more acceptable, and also a bigger change which is increasing the threshold from present 200 crores or 300 crores to 2,000 crores, which is a sizable number, and much of the newer GCCs or even the established GCC can become eligible for this threshold. So this is one very big positive change. I think it will eliminate a lot of legacy litigation and could be a certainty point. The other area which I won't take much more time on the budget, but we'll talk more, is on the APA side. Currently, APAs is also a program launched way back in 2012. But if we see every year the annual report on the APA on the statistics wise, while the government portrays that they have signed 200 APAs, 1200 APAs, but one of the number which always worries me when I see always this APA annual report is constantly increasing of the timeline taken to conclude the APAs, which sometimes is 44 months, which in as latest as is raised to 54 months. So 54 months APA, you mean that already APA is valid for 5 years, and you have already spent 54 months in concluding an APA. So almost there is no value in getting an APA. If you have already spent 54 months in concluding an APA for a benefit that will just last for 6 months, and again for a renewal you have to go through the same pain process. So that is not making any sense. So now they have come come across a soft kind of a commitment, not a formal deadline, which kind of it's like they will endeavor to do it at a 24 months with an optional extension from a taxpayer side of 6 months. But again, this is a soft commitment, not a hardcore commitment. But having said, this is a very laudable and appreciable thing that government has realized that APA delays are intentionally causing the people to not to take this program. So they are taking a conscious effort to at least make this announcement so that people around the globe will see that India is, yes, making some commitments towards settling the dispute and making the alternate dispute resolution process a more convenient and a welcoming move. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Manish, for giving a detailed sketch on the budget. Astusi, last month, around 20th, I had this opportunity of interacting with one of your former chairperson, Mr. Injiti, because he is one of the board member where we work with. And he was apprehending about the forthcoming budget that time, and he was talking about that this is what, being an authority, we used to envisage that the government should handhold and muscle its power to get both IFSCA and the GCC part of element of it at this scale, because we intend to scale it up like Singapore or Hong Kong, what they have done. So what is your point of view with respect to budget and how the government policy is stepping up, and what the authority, you being yourself, is looking forward to?
I think you've actually taken a very respectable name. So I don't know if you understand, Injiti Srinivasi was a secretary MC earlier, and he did a lot of work on the corporate sports side as well. And he was the first chairperson of IFSC and set up the entire concept. He's a very, and interestingly, the first board note that was moved into IFSC when it was set up, it was on GCC, which I presented under his guideline. So I think when we looked at GCC in GIFT IFSC, at that time, our concept of GCC was not really anchored in the way we are driving it now. At that time, problem statement for us was that when we are setting up a financial center, I have to get the bankers in, I have to get the funds in, insurance companies in, and I have to get all those big investors into GIFT IFSC, but I cannot get them unless I get their family in. So getting their family in, I have to get the jobs, I have to get the social infrastructure. To do all this, we conceptualized that GCC should come in. But what we have realized over the period of time, and when we went to government, and we proposed to government that the way government should think of GIFT IFSC is they should think of it as a most favored foreign country. You know, why I say foreign country, because if you understand GIFT IFSC is FEMA offshore. You can do only foreign currency business there and not the rupee business in GIFT IFSC. So it should be given a most favored nation. So whatever best treaties we have with the world, we should get the combination of those treaties and give all those benefits into GIFT IFSC. I give you a very interesting concept, then I'll come to GCC. One good example is that, you know, in India, when investors come, a lot of investors come from France. And when they come from France, the reason they come from France is because India-France treaty, it allows them the exemption on the capital gain. That's why all the global investors went to France. So we went to government and we said that, okay, you should give the same benefit in GIFT IFSC in the budget. You should give a capital gain benefit in GIFT IFSC also. What government did is they removed the benefit from France treaty. So they did not give the benefit to IFSC, but they removed benefit from France treaty. So now the way we are working on enabling this jurisdiction in GIFT IFSC is we are looking at what are the gaps in India and what are those gaps that this place can fill. Some interesting discussion that we are having in the industry right now, because they want to bring the AI capabilities and they already have GCCs in different parts of India. But they are saying that can we scale up the existing skill sets in these jurisdiction, or can we build a new GCC, maybe in a more new age financial center, and we scale up the GCCs there with the AI first talent. So these kind of discussions are happening. But when you think of budget, and Manish has already talked about, I think when you're talking about APA, and the way, why I'm not talking about those points, because if you talk about APAs, you talk about other benefits that you take from, when you talk about APAs as well as predictability and these litigation risk, I do not see those risks in GIFT IFSC. The reason is that because in GIFT IFSC, we have already given these tax benefits in law. So when a MNC is coming into India, earlier they used to think, मैं 10 साल के लिए आ रही हूँ या मैं 20 साल के लिए आ रही हूँ, 10 साल का मुझे क्लैरिटी है, APA नेगोशिएट मैं 5 साल का कर रही हूँ. If I am doing, so predictability is not coming out in their model. So some of those problems have been solved in the budget for rest of India. But when you think of GIFT FSC, again you have to think differently, because in GIFT FSC, you have a tax holiday for 20 or 25 years. There is no question of such litigation risk. And after tax holiday also is 15%. So there is no question about getting into other kind of litigation risk. So I think budget and GCC combination GIFT FSC, I think I quite clear. When I talk about GCC, in my mind, so I understand the point made by the previous speaker about GCC doing the high-end work right now. But in our mind, in GIFT City, we think about it in the 3 elements. We first talk about the Global Capability Center. While we name the regulation GIC, and we later realize that industry doesn't like that terminology anymore, they want GCCs to be called upon. Second is, we recently modified our regulations, which we call our GIC regulation, where we now allow the third-party entities also to provide the GCC services, which means that the EYs, KPMGs, Infosys, TCS of the world can also set up the GCCs there for third party. Third is what we enabled around a year and a half or back, and ICAI played a key role in that, where we allowed the bookkeeping, account, taxation, financial crime, activity. Those businesses we have enabled in GIFT FSC. That particular part, I think, is still need to be enabled. What we were told is that in North America, talent is not getting into this accounting side. So there's a deficit of talent, and they can rely on the talent in India. And while talent is working in fractional form in different parts of India, but can they be allowed the tax holiday in GIFT FSC? From here, can the accounting firms do the BATF work for the world? So that part has been enabled. But now what need to be seen is how industry picks it up. So maybe it's considering these large, long tenor tax holidays and considering your forward-looking view, I suggest some of you can pick it up and work on this BATF side in GIFT FSC. Thank you.
When you talk about tax as a cost in any segment of business, do you see that there is a requirement of improving transfer pricing policy, global minimum tax, or this budget has that flavor of addressing those situations?
Yeah. So, of course, I mean, when GCCs operate, transfer pricing is one of the very foundational thing we as chartered accountants can be in the advisory stage with, is the transfer pricing modeling, right? So what we do typically called as transfer pricing model, or you call it as an intercompany arrangement setup, is that based on the functions that you perform, like as Rakesh, you were saying that we have moved from GIC to GCC. So whether those functional change, whether your transfer pricing policy also needs alignment or not, is a thing which we chartered accountant needs to see, whether we continue with this same cost plus model or we continue with the profit split model, which is more of an intangible creation model. So are we just a bottom line transactional processor which needs to be compensated on a cost plus basis, or if we move from a value hierarchy point to a more value added performance, not a NVA, then the transfer pricing should reflect our changes, that we should either be getting remunerated on a profit split model or a return on a sale model. So that's the combination. So given this, I think this budget has come up definitely. One is of course on a safe harbor basis and on an APA basis, plus a lot of certainty has been provided in terms of the dispute resolution process, making it more efficient. Earlier, I think all of us would know who's practicing on tax litigation, there is a circular on the deposit of a stay of demand, which is 20%. And that 20% is not just on the tax, but also you add up the interest. Basically, you end up paying 20% on the notice of demand under section 156. That includes your tax, interest and penalty. Now the budget has come up, not only reduce this component to 10%, but they have also bring it down just to the tax component. So very significant amount of demand. I think in most of the cases, at least sometimes 50% or 60% of the demand itself is comprising of the tax part. So that part is there. Again, some of the very good elements in terms of the reducing the litigation part is, I think penalty, you get an automatic stay. I mean, till the time the penalty order is not being passed. Now the penalty and the regular proceedings have been merged. So till the time penalty order has been attained finality, you won't be required to pay the demand on that as well. I mean, you are not supposed to pay any interest or something like that. You will not be considered as an assessee in default. In terms of the global minimum tax, I would say, given that I'm sure many of the members would be arranged that US played a bully guy here with Trump and they entered into a side-by-side arrangement. So it's kind of like a story that the whole OECD framework way back in 2021 started because globally there was a tax abuse, which is called as base erosion and profit shifting happening. And the main primary target was the US-based MNCs. USA first supported that, okay, I will support the global BEPS project. It joined an inclusive framework. 139, 141 countries make a combined announcement in July 2021, and then in December 2021, we have the blueprint for Pillar 1 and Pillar 2. OECD implemented the detailed rules. Now, when the Trump 2.0 comes in January, the first step the Trump government issued is that the US government, which has entered into this inclusive framework, is against the Congress authority, and I will not abide by this. He immediately issued a statement and in fact put a law in which is called a retaliatory tax, it also named as, which says that any country who wants to implement a Pillar 2, I will impose a retaliatory tax. So obviously, bullied by this same measure like a tariff, this tax, Mr. Trump pulled a favorable deal from the OECD wherein the US was somehow given a favorable arrangement. Now with this global minimum tax, one country which is a dominant country, which is the primary target of this whole arrangement, given a favorable regime, the fate of this Pillar 2 global minimum tax seems to be shaky at that time. And India by conscience has not implemented a Pillar 2 global minimum tax in its law. It has somehow cleverly, or I would say very consciously implemented the tax because somehow our effective tax rate is more than 15% in most of the cases. Earlier exception was only the gift city, but now it has also been bought in par with the global minimum tax. So I don't see any particularly impact on the global minimum tax for the foreign MNCs or even for the matter be Indian headquartered companies because India is already in the 15% regime more than this. So not a very significant impact. I think on compliance certainty point, as I say, many of the issues also relating to, for example, DRP timelines, assessment order when to pass, orders getting invalidated to the documenting identification number, controversy around the JAO and FAO. These all have been ironed out in a very nice manner, not so nice manner, I would say, due to retrospective amendment. Again, I would say this is a worrying trend in the budget, I would say, being the policy regulator here. Government in the initial 2014 made a commitment that we won't have retrospective amendment, but we still keep on having the retrospective amendments coming in budgets every year and year. So not a very good trend, but yes, the litigations, despite they are being pending the outcome in Supreme Court, we have a retrospective amendment overruling this. So that's not there, but still it's a certainty. A negative outcome is also certainty kind of a thing.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Manish. Yes, we are helpless with respect to the retrospective and prospective, even if the intent is always being prospective. Now, Aswasti, given your role in developing new financial sectors, both in greenfield and in a blue ocean segment, how you see that the policies are stepping up in fintech, global finance operations, and risk management segment, and GCCs are going to play a critical role in that?
Yeah, again, cannot speak for all of India, but I can say that. So I'm just stepping back. So I was in World Economic Forum recently. One thing that we clearly saw there is that when we discuss about India and we are talking about there is a perception. I think there is no more a perception of India. And sometimes we talk about that we are playing an emerging role, and we are not playing an emerging role either now. We are a pivotal role. So I think if two themes which are constant in that event, I think one was AI, other was India. And when India was discussed with AI, GCC was again a common theme. And on the entire AI pavilion, discussions were very constant there. So I think government of India right now, when policies are coming out in the budget or otherwise, one thing that I see again in numbers term is when India is growing at 7-8% and service sector is growing at around 9% plus, GCC's growth rate is going to be in double digit, mid double digit or lower double digits. So with that kind of growth, India knows where to invest, and where the employment is going to, I think, revenue is going to double, as the previous speaker mentioned, and the employment also going to more than double. With that kind of numbers, supporting growth numbers, in all the policy initiative that country is taking right now, our aim is to become more predictable, both regulatorily as well as taxable, tax framework wise, and also to go away from the litigation, because litigation creating so much of friction. So all the enablers that Manish also talked about shortly, incrementally you are seeing that APA, for example, and now you are going automatic route. Now that is a big enabler if you see. Apart from 15%, I think APA and automatic room itself is a very strong messaging to the industry right now. And when MNCs are coming and they're looking for not a 1, 2 year, 5 year kind of a story, they want 10, 20 year kind of a story. So policy enablers which are coming here, these are becoming very, very long term in nature, which I think is very strong message to the industry. So before coming here, I spoke to all the big fours and I asked them what is the feedback from the industry. I think GCC industry as such is hearing the budget, is a constant feedback to me. Apart from some issues that keep coming, but that's a nature of budget, you know, you take 5 steps ahead, some dots and commas creates troubles for a lot of us. You have to sort that out.
Manish, since you work in the field of international taxation and you closely interact with people from UK, USA, UAE, and you read the pulse of their countries, respective countries' taxation, do you feel with respect to GCC, India is at par with theirs, or we need to improve on our taxation policy? And what is the gap, if yes?
I mean, that's a very favorite part of the discussion that gives me an opportunity to share my experience having worked with GCC and dealt with multiple country tax authorities, and I can share some of my feedback or where we do feel. I think India as a policy in terms of legislation, we are great at making great legislations. We have the lengthiest constitution, our laws are so great that you feel that every law is for the protection, but unfortunately the law itself becomes not for protection but for extortion of the money. That's the harsh reality. I mean, the good laws are great, but it is only good when it is implemented right and interpreted right. Earlier, I think few years back, the court were the saviors, the interpretation was happening right, but nowadays the rulings coming up, it doesn't seem that interpretation is also not happening at a very good manner, be it the MFN ruling or the recent Tiger Globe ruling or the reassessment ruling, whatever is happening at the Supreme Court level. We know what's happening, we don't know. But somehow the law is as good as it is implemented rightly. I can give you very few examples. For example, let's talk first about the US. US not compare because it's not of a comparable size. Like UAE or the next best to look upon the model would be the Singapore. Our tax rate is as good as like 17%, 20, UAE is 9%. But I would say, look at the forms or the compliances. I would say, if anybody in dealing with transfer pricing, look at the forms that we have. We have a Form 3C, Part A by 30th September, Part B by 31st October. All needs to be digital, saying what's the obsession with the digital signature. Form 10F, we want NRIs to invest in India, but we are not able to send an OTP to the foreign number. They need to somehow appoint an Indian person and get an OTP. We are asking foreigners to invest in India, but we are not able to issue. We are a global banking giants becoming, but we are not able to send a refund to the foreign bank account with the foreign SWIFT account. That's not happening. GST, we say our GST and customs are all integrated, but at the time of assessment, we are asked for same details of shipping bill, same details of foreign inward remittances, but all those certificates are generated from the custom portals itself. So all these are issues. I mean, we talk about APAs. I mean, as I give an example, 54 months of an APA for 5 years of APA, I already spent half of my life. During assessments, I mean, same issues comparable is happening. So, I mean, implementation, somehow there is a flaw, and we also always end up, and the new rules have also come up. Let's see, I mean, with a greater hope, we see that the new rules and the new forms, new budget things will go well. But law is always there. Law was always made with a good intention. I mean, it's with the execution, the things change. And with the recent interpretation of the law, the tax residency certificate of the controversy over there. I mean, we can't go back and write the controversy of the GAR over there, that it was meant to be a grandfather. It was now suddenly, if the world geopolitics is somehow not in India's favor, the judiciary should not interpret the law in a manner that we need to protect our tax sovereignty. it's right. But we have a bilateral commitment to the tax treaties as well. So if somehow more ruling like a Tiger Global with a 14,000 crore tax bill, which we voluntarily gave in the 2017 as a GAR grandfathering, it can't be a right messaging to this. So, I mean, we have to be in a way, again on having a regulator and a policy maker on the side. I don't want to bring back any negative attention, but this is just the view I'm seeing on the media and on the dealing with the tax professionals and my on ground. One very common example, for example, we talk about GCCs to come and invest in India. GCC spent a significant amount of in renovating their office according to the global culture and to redesign their, why we are not allowing an input tax credit on the GCC office space. And we do have a favorable ruling of the Supreme Court in the case of Safari Retreat, but we overruled it. I mean, what's this? I mean, if we are truly welcoming GCC with a roadmap to invest, why don't we allow a input tax credit on the staff welfare and health insurance? Don't we want a country to be universally insured? Don't we want the GCCs to promote a work-life balance? While on the parliament, we are introducing a work bill, but on a staff welfare expenses, we are disallowing the input tax credit. So that's not a story that we should be doing it on ease of doing business on the global side, but on reality, it's something which, sorry, that's something of feedback which I always have when I was in the GCC.
Fantastic. Actually, when you touched upon Safari Retreat, my eyes got lit up because that is something which originated from Bhubaneswar.
Yeah.
And Safari Retreat, most talked about case study.
There were two rulings that came, Ashish Bansal Supreme Court and Safari Retreat, they came almost same to same.
And just before winding up, one question each to both of you gentlemen. First to Asutosh ji, what is the hope and belief you are going to have in the ecosystem going forward as a regulator? And what change you want to foresee as we go ahead?
See, as our co-panelist spoke, I think as far as we have people like our co-panelists who are asking for more, we should be hopeful. Because I think I believe in one thing. Anyway, I'm an eternal optimist, but I believe in one thing. And recently, if you see in Davos, there was an interview with the IKEA CEO, and he was asked a question, very pointed question. If you go to India versus China, which one is better for you? He does the question about China because he's a global businessman. Like that, as a regulator, I will dodge this question to the extent possible. But he mentioned one thing, that if today if you go to India, you are able to knock at any door. You go to any IAS, bureaucrats, you can speak to any of them. You are being heard. The speed of execution, the speed of delivery might be different at different departments, but government is listening to it. Ease of doing business, I tell you a very interesting fact. I'm a regulator. In the regulator, I had the division of ease of doing business. How many of you have heard that in an India regulatory ecosystem or any Indian such authority, you have ease of doing business division? That's the focus. And that's not a focus only in IFSCA. I'm saying it's a focus almost in the entire government department. Ease of doing business is the very core focus. And in this focus, what they are trying to do, they are trying to achieve predictability. They're trying to reduce the frictions. I think whatever India needs for growth, one thing that people should believe, sometimes I realize that a lot of our fellow entrepreneurs, they shy away. They think कि कुछ होगा नहीं, हो नहीं सकता, तो बोलते नहीं हैं. I request and I suggest that all of us should actually, such grievances, corridor discussions will not help. But if you can, jot down on a paper. सरकार कागज पे चलती है अभी. मेरे पास भी प्रपोजल आएगा, आप मेरे से कॉरिडोर में बात करेंगे, तब भी मैं आपसे कहूँगा साहब एक नोट डुल के मेरे पास डाल दीजिए. So if you believe that something need to be done, you raise that task formally on a note, and government is taking note of it. The various departments are taking note of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Asutosh ji, for being crisp and crude on this aspect of hope. Now, you being an expert on tax, what is your hope? I know it is a very difficult question with retrospective and prospective going hand in hand. Still, hope is tomorrow, and tomorrow has to be beautiful. Manish ji.
The question being that, yes, of course, this budget and every budget year on year we see is hopeful. And we definitely see some changes, and I think there is definitely some hearing at the bureaucracy level, and even at the ministerial level, and even at the industry forum that we regularly engage through. So some of these are considered, and some of these, because obviously India is a nation of a very wide stakeholders, and everybody has different expectation and aspiration. So each of the proposals cannot be taken up, it takes up at a time. But I think the message is getting right. I mean, we are creating a kind of a vibrant ecosystem for GCC, data centers, AI, and all those new age industry sectors that we want to be part of, be it semiconductor, all those things are happening at a right stage. And I think nobody is doubting that this decade, or maybe next year, whatever, we are already proven that we are the fourth largest economy and trying to become the third or second, maybe whatever God would take us. But yes, this is the era where you need to be in India, where you need to capitalize our markets, where you need to be there. So the message is loud and clear as always, and I think this budget has given Might a bit of a more of a branding and make it out this message loud. But yes, every country has its own set of problems, be it in terms of tax policy, efficiency. Our country is not one of the perfect, and no country in the world is perfect. But yes, the messaging is very positive in this, from this budget to the global.
Of course, yes, that's maybe the tagline of this budget was and is the Viksit Bharat is balancing aspiration with inclusion. So with this note, I thank you so much, gentlemen, for being very lucid in terms of policy and tax, and giving a roadmap what the regulators should think in a way so that we can make this GCC ecosystem more proactive and a vital stage of the ecosystem. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And friends, we'll be heading for the next session. And as Debasida said in the first half of today's seminar, that GCC starts with networking. So we'll be having our session on networking. Just allow us 2 minutes time to settle the stage, and we'll be heading for that session. Thank you so much.